Hey, it's your boy Rain Hot. Hey, okay. Hey, it's your boy Rain Hot. Hey,
what is up, everybody? It is your boy, the Rain Hide, and look, I just want to apologize for being gone for so long because you know what? I know I said I was gonna be a good YouTuber this year, and I just straight up lied to y'all. Like, I lied to y'all face. I looked y'all dead in the face, dead in the eyes. I looked at all those kids that watch this channel and said, I don't care about you for real. Today we're here to react to Game Theory FNAF Burn Them All Ultimate Timeline. So without any further ado, let's get into the video.
Hello Internet, welcome to Game Theory and page 20 of our final FNAF timeline. This is getting ridiculous. Last time we covered William Afton's rise as a serial killer, how the loss of his young son in 1983 caused him to make one fateful promise that would ultimately serve as his driving force for decades. I will put you back together. Fueled by grief and obsession, Afton would lose himself in work and drinks. One night in a fit of rage, he lashes out against Henry's
they're just going over the a quick summary of the rest of the timeline so far.
Ultimately destroys William's life and the lives of those around him. That one murder gives Afton a taste for blood, resulting in the deaths of 10 more children across 2 different pizzerias. Those children go on to possess animatronics.
Nah, cause like you see, that's the crazy thing about this whole timeline stuff though, is that like it could have just been one kid, and then just like that's it. But you know what I'm trying to say, like. Every villain has a start, bro. I mean, it should have never been any kid, but
giving Afton
you know what I'm saying?
First exposure to Remnant and the potential solution for bringing his son back to life. The need to learn more about this miraculous power leads him to produce the Funtime animatronics, as well as their capture devices. Robots designed to bring kids to him for experimentation and collection of more Remnant. Except there was one thing that he didn't account for: his daughter's curiosity. He made the robots too appealing, and it would cost him.
Yeah, I remember that.
With 2 children to put back together, Afton was more desperate and crazed than ever, returning to defunct pizzerias to steal the possessed metal still living inside their walls. What he didn't account for, though, were the ghosts, forcing him to pay for the sins of his past. When last we left him,
bro.
Ring locked, leading to death behind a secret wall. Gone, but certainly not forgotten. We're about to see in today's video. Today we're finishing up chapter.
This is about FNAF 3 now.
Over the next 6 pages, we switch our focus to the other main character of the franchise, Mike, a young boy dealing with the fallout of a stupid childhood decision with tragic consequences. A young man who's
cause that's so true, man.
Collateral damage, caught in the blast radius of.
Cause like that's the thing that I was thinking about, like when you find out that well, like in the game, you know, like his brother is the reason why he ends up getting chopped by the Golden Freddy mascot animatronic. It's kind of just crazy to think about it. Like, imagine being the reason your brother like died. Like, that's pretty heavy. Like, and then your father's a serial killer. Like, your father's a serial killer. You killed your brother, and your sister got killed by your father because your father was trying to get more kids. That's crazy.
William's whirlwind of destruction. Now,
like,
before
damn.
we just rip off the band-aid now,
damn.
I won't be finishing the timeline today. I know.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I wanted to, but covering FNAF VR, AR, and...
Right, so, like, that's what I'm saying. I think this is the 3rd video. I'm pretty sure this is the 3rd video.
And I've
but I'm not sure.
Long enough for this
I think it is.
So I just had to make the executive call to break this one up into 2. Don't worry, that part is already written, it is already recorded, it is just in the process of being edited. It is a hefty episode. So mark it on your calendar.
Nah, you know what's crazy? No, you know what's crazy, though? You know what's crazy, though? I remember when this first got announced and MatPat was like, he wanted to do this in like a big video, and I was like, bruh, anyone who watches Game Theory knows damn well that that's never happened before. Anytime they've done any type of timeline, it's or like mega theory, it's always been at least like 2 or 3 episodes, at least. Like, I can't remember the last time where like that promise was ever kept.
That one's actually going to be going live on March 25th.
But
it's also coming complete with a
alright, I'm going to be back March 25th.
Everything from the past couple episodes, as well as having ourselves some very special guests. So overall, that one should be a lot of fun.
Have some Markiplier in there, though.
The conclusions we've reached that solve security breach, whew, they are controversial. I feel good about them. Like, I think that we've locked in on a lot of the answers here, but whoa, they're going to raise a lot of discussion. Let's just say that you're either going to love that episode or hate it. I don't really think there's...
I'm probably going to love it, because at this point, like, I'm not making any theories of my own at this point. As long as it just makes literally no sense, then I think I'll be good.
William still wasn't back. Weird. Michael knew his father sometimes traveled for work, disappearing for days on end, but usually there was some sort of notice, a phone call, a post-it, something. It's not like Michael and his father were close, far from it, but as a household of two suffering
reminds me of me and my dad.
There was at least some element of communication between the two of them. They were united by a name and a shared pain. This time, though, things felt different. William had left nothing. His absence was longer. There were no check-ins, no updates, just silence.
Because he don't care about you.
His father, it was that he had
he trying to become like, he trying to bring back them kids. He don't care about his older son for shit.
In the event that something like this ever happened. Normally, his father kept his home office locked, but in the event of an unexpected, prolonged absence, Michael had been instructed to enter his father's office and find an empty set of shelves mounted in the corner of the room. Rolling his eyes, Michael entered the office.
Yeah, see, that's the thing that I really like about these videos, is that it integrates a lot of the elements that you don't see in the game, like the books, because the books, I know that they fill in a lot of the like lore pieces that weren't really in the games initially through like different characters. So like there will be like a character that's a parallel of a character in the game. So like Michael will be represented by another character, or William will be represented by another character, or like, you know, stuff like that, or like, yeah, or, you know, things like that,
so many hours of his,
you know, to summarize, or at least that's what I remember.
He dragged himself over to the shelf in the corner, expecting to find an emergency contact list, a family safety deposit box. But what he actually found there was completely unexpected.
Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be.
The shelf swung open and revealed a giant industrial.
Oh, yeah,
down into an underground.
Right, and then that's why. Okay, yeah.
Hidden inside his childhood home was a secret entrance to an enormous underground science lair. It didn't make any sense. Seriously, it didn't make any sense. And yet here it was, mapped directly underneath the floor plan of the house that he'd grown up.
Yeah, because at the very end of the game, we find that out.
Michael thought that he'd known his father, a prideful, sad, angry man with petty everyday problems, but clearly he'd been living with a stranger this entire time. His father had secrets. Suddenly the days of William being locked inside of his office made sense. He'd been here the entire time. Where was here, though? Was this Circus Baby's entertainment and rentals? The Circus Baby restaurant always did seem to be a deeply personal project for father, a failure of his that cut unusually deep, especially after that first location had to be closed prematurely due to the gas leaks. After that day, father really did seem to change, to lose himself even more in his work. Clearly the entrance
into the
facility, one that required crawling through the his father had been working here.
I'm sorry, I'm so I don't know, man. I guess the thing is that the theory is fine or whatever. The theory's fine, but it's just that the amount of like, when you think about just how crazy convoluted and complex the Five Nights at Freddy's storyline is, honestly it's kind of funny. It's just so funny how all this ties together. It's really impressive, actually, for a video game series.
She wasn't like the others. The way she talked, the stories she told. This wasn't just a robot. She was alive somehow. And not only was she alive, she also felt familiar.
I wonder why. I wonder why.
I can't be fixed. Will you help me?
Was this his sister?
Hell no.
Baby girl? But how? Why? What was this place? He dug around some old files and found blueprints outlining the features of these animatronics. Storage containers, voice mimicking, parental tracking. And was that a child in Freddy's stomach? Was his
Yeah, these the blueprints
on kids? Were all the rumors that
Oh no, wait a minute, I gotta fart. Oh shit. Oh my god, that shit stink. Oh my god. Here, take some. Damn, what did I eat last night, baby?
At night, that there were murders done in all the pizzerias, that his father had somehow been the prime suspect in all of it. Suddenly, Michael's mind flashed back to his persistent nightmares throughout his childhood. Had he been experimented on too? Tears,
yes, sir.
His anger, fear, and confusion filled his body.
Right, like honestly, See, Michael, he a better man than me, because if it was me, I would have like straight up just like left. You know what? Get a matchbox, you know, get some gasoline, start a fire down there, go upstairs, burn the rest of the house, and then just try to claim insurance. I don't know. Because there's no... I would have just burnt this stuff on. I don't care what the hell he was doing.
A monster toying with life itself. Suddenly everything clicked. He frantically looked around the room, blinking human heads on poles staring back at him. Green eyes, his sister. Blue eyes, his brother. Closed eyes, his mom. All just staring expectantly. These were meant to be human. William was working down here trying to make believable humans. Literally rebuilding the family that they had both lost. Small little girl robots with their British accents roaming the hallways of this underground facility suddenly took on a whole new context.
Oh, no. No.
Those meant to be his sister? A replacement for her? A clone? Was William building clones of his sister? They seemed to know him, after all, to react to his presence.
They were all there. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you.
He always did have a bit of a resemblance to his father. Michael's mind reeled as the reality of his world crumbled to dust. No, he had to get them out of there. If this really was his sister,
no, you don't.
Any of these...
No, you know you don't. Look. I have 3 sisters, okay? I have 3 sisters that I love very, very much. But I'm going to just say this right now for the record. If this is my sister at that point, look, you gonna have to stay down there, cause there's no way, you know, cause I'm not trying to get scooped like how he about to get scooped.
Human souls, whatever remnant of the humans that they once were, they needed to be rescued.
They always put us back inside. There's nowhere for us to hide here.
Led by the voice of
well, that's
Sadie,
true.
he marched through the now empty
but I don't know.
He would lead them. He would protect them. And finally, he would be able to forgive himself for the killing of his brother so many years.
You are in the scooping room now. The scooper only hurts for a moment.
Scooper? That violent extraction arm? Michael had seen that one in the pile of blueprints. Something about rendering the magical silver metal inside useless. In reality, prior to getting himself spring-locked and put behind the wall, William's methods had become increasingly sophisticated. With a mechanized arm that could infuse new bodies with the soul, William could finally give and take away life. The only thing he needed were the bodies. But William wasn't the only one looking for bodies, as Michael was about to learn.
But if we looked like you, then we could hide. If we looked like you, then we would have somewhere to go.
Michael
and remember that. That's his sister talking like that. His sister. As a robot. I mean, animatronic. Or whatever you want to call it. See, that's what I'm talking about. Like, if I found my fam like that, I don't know if I could rock with that. I don't know if I can rock with that shorty, because they might try to scoop me. And I want my stuff.
His sister had lied to him. Another game of pretend. The scooper plowed forward, digging its extraction arm into his body.
Oh my god. I remember the first time that happened. That was so jarring in the game. Yeah, this is the thing that really don't make sense to me.
Life was not his own. He was forced to comply with the tangle of wires and spirits.
Yeah, this makes sense.
His body felt like an overfilled balloon, begging to burst as day by day, week by week.
Oh my god, that sounds like a personal hell that I would honestly would never want to go through.
But wishing he wasn't. He was a puppet, a walking shell. And while he did his best to conceal his fate, there was only so much a man filled with robot spaghetti could do. The entity in his innards would eventually leave, but by that point the damage had been done. His decaying flesh stank, turning him into a literal purple guy. But still, even with no bones, even with rotting purple flesh and begging to die, Michael continued to live.
Yeah, but you see, that's the thing that I don't understand, is that, like, if Michael looked like a corpse, right? How exactly did he get a job at any of these places? Like,
filled with robot spaghetti could
maybe I'm missing like a part of the story, because I don't know all of it by heart.
Decaying flesh stank, turning him into a literal purple.
But I get why. But that makes sense why he can't die.
Even with
That makes
rotting
sense.
purple flesh and begging to die, Michael continued to live. That silvery metal remnant injected by the scooper meant that he couldn't die. His anger also refused to die. What he had seen down there in his sister's location had rocked him to his core. His father had
Understandable.
dozens. His experiments had killed
Understandable.
his sister and then tortured
Understandable.
him throughout all his childhood. He was
Understandable.
actively trying to build human replicants. He didn't
Understandable.
know where his father was, but Michael knew that he was out there.
Understandable.
Been living in shadows. There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you.
Michael had to correct for the sins of his father. He had to make things right. Michael would burn Fazbear Entertainment to the ground. I mean, what else could you do when your skin was permanently purple? Michael's strategy was simple. He would apply for night security guard positions at the old defunct pizzeria locations. That way, no one ever had to see him or smell him during his shift. And all these old shuttered locations.
Oh.
Teenage vandals and squatters.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Buildings, and yet no one ever really wanted to work an overnight graveyard shift unless they were practically out of options. Enter Mike. One by one, he would take.
So you mean they were? So you see, that's the thing about Freddy Fazbear's is that they really didn't do business that good because they hired somebody that they even know looked like a corpse.
The job of security guard, changing his
I guess that makes
to
sense.
ensure that no one was able to follow his paper trail. Once inside, he could tamper with the animatronics and figure out how they worked, writing about his experiences in his.
But I'm still saying it's still weird how he got that far without getting like strapped down to a stretcher and sent to a hospital.
He was working there nowhere near the summer months. He heard the gory details of his father's franchise from the outsiders looking in, confused and afraid about what was happening in the walls around them. Sometimes he would see his brother in the form of the Golden Freddy suit. It's me appearing on the walls around him. Except now, there was something else there. He was no longer alone. Another familiar presence was also forced to share the same body. And Golden Freddy would attack him now. It was aggressive. Its vengeance wanted to lash out at anyone with the Afton name, anyone who wore a security guard outfit. Over time, Mike worked his way through the old restaurants, the original pizzeria, the bigger, better Freddy Fazbear's. He spent weeks there looking for clues as to his father's whereabouts. And each time at the end of his week's shift, he would then set the location on fire. Remnant can't survive high temperatures after all. So burning away whatever spirit-laden animatronics that still existed inside seemed like a winning strategy.
The real
Visiting
endings.
of his past, though, was causing the nightmares to begin again. Hallucinations that brought him back to his childhood. The guilt around killing his brother. His dreams were oddly mixed with the shrill phone calls of the security guards. But it would all be worth it in the end. The goal was to eventually
Yo, can we just take a moment to just appreciate the editing of these videos? Because look at this, man. Look at like
around killing his brother.
It's simple, but it's like, well, not simple, but you know what I mean. But it's like the way that they're kind of conveying just the story through the way that everything moves. It's, you know, the editing is actually like, it's getting me into it for real.
The bigger, better Freddy Fazbear's. He spent
it's visually appealing.
Each time at the end of his week shift,
visually stimulating.
Location on fire. Remnant can't survive high
temperatures and it needs to be because I'm tired as hell. Actually, I'm gonna go back for it.
Oddly mixed
Sorry.
with the shrill phone calls of the security guards. But it would all be worth it in the end. The goal was to eventually stumble across the one location, the one job that would finally reunite him with his father. Little did Mike know that day would come sooner than he expected. 2023, an advertisement came across Mike's TV.
What the hell is that in the background?
Awful crimes that occurred around Freddy Fazbear's
what the hell?
Years ago.
What is that?
Mike's sick. People looking to make a quick buck off the tragedy of others, off his own family. This wasn't a joke or entertainment. Regardless,
right, it's messed up.
His team was combing through his family's history. They might stumble across something that could be useful. And if his father was truly still alive as he suspected, there would be no way that he wouldn't show up here. Maybe finally this could be the final chapter in his family's marathon of tragedy. Mike applied for the job and was immediately handed the keys. Years of doing this had taught him that security guards rarely receive thorough security checks. They also liked how creepy Mike looked. They thought it was a costume, on theme for the job. What little they knew.
Now, wait. Wait a goddamn minute. See, this is the thing I'm talking about, is that are people in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe just incompetent?
You don't say!
Because, I mean, I'm starting to get I'm starting to think that that's the... I'm starting to think that's the reason.
I came back for another night. I promise it'll be a lot more interesting this time.
For weeks, there was nothing. But just as Mike considered giving up, he received the call that he'd been waiting for years.
You're not gonna believe this. We found one. A real one.
Could this finally be him? Sure enough, there he was. William inside his iconic golden Bonnie springlock suit.
Yeah, that's gotta be mad crazy, having to combat your father for 5 nights.
Mike had always struggled with the phantoms of his past haunting him, but now all the animatronics he'd encountered over the past months, hopping from pizzeria to pizzeria, suddenly sprang to life. Their burned faces haunting him as he tried to keep track of his father on the cameras. It would seem that William's mere presence had put the spirits on high alert. Ultimately, they were harmless, more annoying than anything else, but there was one that felt different from the others. One that was more than just a mere phantom. The security puppet. If he looked at the cameras at just the right moment, he could see it floating there through the halls. He could even see its reflection in the water pool down the ground. It would seem like
not a phantom.
The only one there on a mission. While he was dealing with Springtrap, Michael assumed that this one was likely dealing with the spirits of this place, finally setting them to rest. Hopefully this means a happier day for all of us, Mike thought to himself. And in that moment, he felt the air around him release, like pressure being let out of a bottle. The building sighed, as if 5 spirits had finally been allowed to move on. He had the sense that his brother was a part of it. He rigged the wiring inside the building to misfire, and the dry, desiccated walls erupted in flames. It is finished.
Psych!
Except
it
not. Was not. Somehow, through sheer force of will, Afton remained.
Michael Afton.
And Mike
I always come back.
Luckily, the solution would present itself later that year. Not from Mike, but from another victim that had been left in his
Henry!
We're talking about becoming a Fazbear Entertainment franchisee. Restaurant ownership and management. Something almost anyone can do with a limited degree of success. You are now the face of the newly rebranded Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Fazbear Entertainment as a brand had been closed for years. William had been stuck in a suit and a wall. The only person who legally could bring the franchise back was Henry, but he'd largely pulled out of the franchise time of his father's disappearance. Something was up. Surely this had to be some kind of a trick, right? Mike, doing what he did best, applied for a franchise and immediately got the job. There was just one thing out of the ordinary.
Yeah, you got the job. You got the job, huh?
That means that not only have you been checking outside at the end of every shift, as you were instructed to do, but also that you have found something that meets the criteria of your special obligations under paragraph 4.
No employment contract he'd ever signed required him to keep special lookout for independently moving animatronics outside the restaurant. Now he knew something was up here. Henry was luring them all back. Rather than trying to go to them, like Mike had done for years, Henry was doing the opposite. He was putting them all under the same roof. He was finishing them off for good.
Makes sense.
This wasn't meant to be a restaurant. It was meant to be a prison, a containment vessel, a locked box meant to trap them all in so they could finally end the madness. It took a few nights, but eventually everyone was there. His father, the puppet, the robot spaghetti that had once violated his his sister, now hopelessly devoted to serve the man that had once gotten her killed. It was time. He had been instructed to seal the doors and leave, but while he locked everything down, he didn't move on. If this was truly meant to be the end, if the remnant needed to be washed away, he needed to be a part of that.
This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still and give up your
I'm starting to get chills again because of this speech, man, when this first happened. See, that's the thing, man. Like, this was like peak Five Nights at Freddy's to me.
And with that, it was over. The Afton legacy died with all of them.
Like, honestly, I'm gonna say it. Like, some of y'all might disagree with this, but I think this is where the series should have ended. Like, 100. Like, I know it's like kind of controversial to say that, because don't get me wrong, I think the other games are really good. Like, you know, and the stuff that we've gotten after this game is really good. But like, I think that this right here would have been the perfect way to end this series. Now, I know them ending it here would have been unrealistic because, you know, Five Nights at Freddy's at this point was like too big to fail. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not gonna miss out on that kind of money. You know, I wouldn't either. But I'm just saying that from a narrative point of view, I feel like this was the point where I looked at this series and I was like, that was the ending that I wanted. You know what I mean? Like, that was the vindication, or like, I guess you could say satisfaction that I wanted in the end, because it really felt like that was the end. And it did it so well. The way they closed this chapter, it's legendary. It's legendary.
Trapped inside of a literal box as the flames danced around the office.
Like, I have yet to see a horror game really close out like that.
Gone yet. Although the darkest pit of hell was open and waiting for him, something or someone wouldn't allow him to move on. Instead, he found himself locked in moments from his past.
Yeah, Cassidy.
His underground bunker. It was as if his brain's neurons were all firing at once, overloaded, mixing and matching all his biggest fears, regrets.
Cassidy, she should have listened. She should have listened to the guy on the boat. Leave the demon to
Then they started coming. Without warning, animatronics, both new and old, began to jump out at him, bite him, rip him limb from limb. The pain was immeasurable. Make it stop. Make it stop. William, for the first time, longed for death, an end to this torture. Just as it felt like he couldn't take it anymore, everything was quiet again. It was as if the world had been reset. There was a brief moment of quiet, and then the onslaught began again. Dozens of
reset over and over and over. He kind of deserves that.
Escape from more pain, more ripping. It was his own personal hell, but why? Why couldn't he just die? And then he saw them, a group of characters he never thought he'd see again.
Oh! The mediocre melodies.
The mediocre melodies. It had all started to go wrong once they showed up. Once Henry had made them. But mixed in with their obnoxious southern drawls, William heard something else. It was barely a whisper, but he could just make out the words.
He tried to release you. He tried to release us. But I'm not gonna let that happen. I will hold you here. I will keep you here. No matter how many times they burn us.
That voice.
Ooh.
I knew that voice, but from where?
Boy, you know who that is.
The one he should have killed. William thought that. He'd done a lot of awful things, but he was always the one that stood out. Not Charlie, his drunken act of revenge. Not Susie, his first true murder. No. Instead, it was the one that he had lost control with. The one that he had broken beyond repair for no good reason other than because he could. The one that he'd stuffed inside the golden bear that his partner used to wear. Cassidy. They were back, and now they were trying to punish him, to make him suffer like he'd made them suffer. It was almost like William and Cassidy's souls had been locked together, fused by a collective rage and spite, each refusing to move on. But while Cassidy was so focused on taking revenge, they actually did the one thing that would be the downfall for so many others. They kept William alive. Even though fire should have destroyed the remnant that was coursing through his being, Cassidy kept William breathing, paving the way for his escape. William's will was so strong. His soul so powerful.
That's true.
He managed to put a part of himself inside the circuitry that housed the spring-locked suit. And there, his consciousness lay, inside a single circuit board, waiting for
Oh my god. Oh my god. See, like, this is what I'm talking about. This was the part where I was like, how are you not dead, bro? Because you got to think about it. The will of this man's soul to...
No one would suspect.
Just go.
So a bit of a shorter chunk, but an important one as we shift perspectives to Mike and tell his side of the story. And with FNAF VR, AR, and Security Breach having so much to explain, I didn't want to rush through things by trying to cram it all in here. Don't worry, I know you've all been patient. The final video is happening on March 25th.
Oh,
it is
man.
locked. It is getting ready to go. Trust me, I want this thing to be over and done with as much as you. I am not just stretching it out for the views. But before we wrap up for the day, I did want to talk about the big Orville elephant in the room, Mike's quest for revenge. You might have noticed that I was vague about the dates, and there's a good reason for that. I don't know him. There is no good way for me to make him fit in. Here's what I do know. We know with a high amount of certainty that Michael Afton is the character that we play as up until Ultimate Custom Night. Mike Schmidt and Fritz Smith, the security guards for FNAF 1 and FNAF 2 respectively, get fired for, quote, tampering with the animatronics and odor. So weird connection between the two of them, right? But now, look at the phantom animatronics that are haunting us in FNAF 3. They use models from both FNAF 1 and FNAF 2, meaning whoever is sitting in that security guard
had to experience it.
Both locations and their animatronics. And that's not all.
That lines up pretty well.
Burned. It's a weird detail in the game, and it's something that the character encyclopedia repeatedly calls attention to. The burned texture for these phantom animatronics. Why is that so unusual?
Because
Fazbear Frights is the first
burned.
of the franchise that we hear about anything burning down.
Easy link.
From that point on in the story, it's like the characters turn pyro and are suddenly setting fires left and right. But for the first 3 games, nothing ever catches fire. The animatronics are just moved or repurposed in some way. So when did they burn? And why would our security guards see them as being burned? Someone has to have been going location to location, setting these these places on fire,
Right.
purging the sins of the past. We know we're definitely playing as Mike in Sister Location in FNAF 6 based on the in-game dialogue. And in FNAF 4, there's an Easter egg where we can hear the phone call from Night 1 of FNAF 1, meaning that whoever's in that bedroom has heard the recording as a
Right,
character.
yeah. So like all the sort of the memories and like the links. Damn, bro, I'm so tired about ISIS. Right? The links of the memories and everything, it all comes out in the games. I got it.
So overall, there is solid evidence that connects all of FNAF's 1 through 6. You'll also notice how the
I'm telling you, man.
Encyclopedia doesn't.
I'm telling y'all, those original 6 games are goated.
Bonnie, but not
goated.
Some tells me they don't want us to confirm how many games he's been in, because that would confirm too much of the theory. In short, this gives us an confirm how many thing has a page for Chocolate Bunny Bonnie, but not. Encyclopedia doesn't have a page for Mike Afton. This thing has a page for Chocolate Bunny Bonnie.
Okay.
That tells me they don't want us to confirm how many games he's been in, because that would confirm too much of the theory. In short, this gives us an incredibly compelling and complete narrative. Mike as our protagonist and William, his father, as our antagonist. Mike accidentally kills his brother in Fredbear's mouth, which begins our story and sets William down his pathway of destruction. Mike is then haunted by the guilt of his past and is looking to make things right across the rest of the games. In Sister Location, he learns what his father has been up to and realizes what he has to do to correct it. After failing to finish the job in FNAF 3, he ultimately helps Henry end it all in FNAF 6. It is great. It is a clean narrative. There is just one problem: timing. Mike's quest can't really start until he's been down to Sister Location, seen Baby, and gotten himself scooped. That's when he finds out about Afton's secret.
This image right here.
Seen Baby and gotten himself scooped.
This image right here, yo. When I first saw this, when I was playing it, and I was watching it. This right here. Up until that point in the series, this was the scariest thing that I had seen from this series.
That's when he finds out about Afton's
to me, at least.
It's also when he's gonna start to smell, because, you know, he's a walking, talking, rotting corpse. And we know that he's not going down into the bunker until the Funtime animatronics have been made, Freddy's has been closed, and Afton is out of the picture. That all should be happening post-1993, after William is sealed behind a wall.
Right.
That presents us with a few problems. Afton has already dismantled the original animatronics, as we see in the FNAF 3 minigames. How are those things getting burned if they're already deconstructed? But more importantly, we see FNAF 2 paychecks with the date 1987. That is way earlier than I think it can be. To be fair, Fritz Smith's pink slip on night 7 doesn't have a date, but it's a bit weird to say that the first few nights are in 1987, and then employee number 3 is hired on years after the restaurant closes. Anyway, I just wanted to call that out because I don't have a solid answer for it, and I'd love to see your comments down below. And with that, my friends, this chapter comes to a close. We'll see you on March 25th for the
we gotta make sure we check that out.
In the franchise, and the controversial answers we think solves what those games were trying to tell us.
Then, I can't wait for that Gregory theory.
Afton kind of succeeded in being brought back to life. Gotta admit, he's still looking a little bit on the dry, dehydrated.
All right, I think this is gonna be an ad. Yeah, this is an ad or something. All right, so that's gonna do it for this reaction. I mean, I don't know what y'all think. So far, this makes sense to me. The stuff that he brought up in the end about like the timing and the dates, that is something that I was thinking about going into this video about, like the timing, because that was the thing that I was trying to say in the last video. Oh, I gotta mess about. That's the thing I was trying to say in like the last video when it came to like just the whole stuff about the dates, because it seems that, I don't know if it was Scott or maybe creative decisions by other people in the, you know, the FNAF team, whoever they may be. But it seems like because they were working backwards to kind of fill in this lore, because, you know, like the first game, obviously there wasn't all this lore back when the first game came out. And this sort of thing of working backwards and then writing the books and then the spin-off games and then yada yada yada, you know, something. It seems to be the case where because of that there are certain, I got my downloads are showing. It seems to be the case that because of that there are these sort of parts in the story where stuff doesn't really line up, because you think like, okay, logically, right, it has to be this time frame because ABCD after William, yada yada yada. But then when you start to think about it, you're like, wait a minute, how could this exactly happen? And how could he be this and walking around and not be in a hospital? You see, like, those are the things that make those are the things that kind of irk me about FNAF, is that those just kind of like inconsistencies that feel very almost, I don't know if the word would be careless, but just not really thought out. But I don't know if that's because, you know, like, it's supposed to be vague, so maybe time doesn't really matter. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe timelines don't really matter. Maybe it's just like, hey, it happened sometime after this. That's it. Like, what if time is just not really a factor? But I mean, it kind of has to be, because if you want to make a timeline, you kind of have to have time, you know, in it. so I don't know. But I think this sounds like a pretty good theory so far. I'm very interested in what's going to happen on March 25th, because that is the big one where, you know, if you heard what Matt was saying about Gregory in the other videos, you know that it's kind of controversial. You know, Twitter's going to go crazy. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching this video. Link to the original video will be down in the description. My socials will be down there as well. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit the bell for the post notifications. I am your earthly highest, the Rain Hide. Peace out, Sovereign. That's what I'm going to call y'all now. I'm going to call you the Sovereigns, because, you know, we the royal group. I don't know. I didn't come up with a name for y'all. Like, tell me a name for y'all in the comments if y'all got one, like, you know, that match like the Rain Hide, you know, like royalty status. But without anything left to say, take care, everybody.